Hi everyone, my name is Zoe and welcome to our video tutorial today on client accounts. Today I'll be walking us through exactly how we're able to make payments and refunds within client accounts, generate invoices and receipts, and how we're also able to read and manage our client accounts. They are such an important part of the system, and we really hope that today's tutorial helps you understand them a little better. There are various ways to take payments within the NewBook system. The first scenario I would like to walk you through is receiving a payment for a guest that is currently checked in or in-house and has an outstanding balance. Utilizing the Today's Summary option on the left-hand side, I'm going to click straight into my guest in-house list. Once I've clicked into there, I can use the search menu at the top to locate the booking I'm after. We're heading into Paul Smith's booking today. Once I've entered his name, it refines those search options for us. It's outlining all the details to do with Paul's stay. The main area I would like to point out at this stage is this column here that says client account balance. It's such a great tool, this area, because straight away at a glance, I can see that there is a red debit balance on his actual account. Now, to actually take that payment, I'm going to click into the booking ID here. Once I've selected that, it takes us to the view of Paul's booking. It has the red text that at a glance again is also advising us that he's got a debit balance outstanding. Underneath here there's also a matching payment box as to exactly how much balance he has outstanding. So there's $135 debit. And moving underneath there is also this section called client accounts. The one that's outlined in the purple here, which is his booking client account, which matches his booking ID. So this is the account that's been created when we made this booking, and the purple is indicating that that is where all charges associated with a stay are being raised into or generated into. That's why we can see that matching $135 debit on this particular booking client account. In order for me to receipt the payment for Paul today, I'm going to click into the red payment box here, and it's going to bring up our add payment pop-up screen. The top section is outlining the payment details. Firstly, we have our client account, which will indicate where the payment will be receipted into for this particular booking. Underneath that is also the payment description. This is a automatically generated description. It can be changed by simply typing over. The payment amount is how much we'll actually be taking from Paul today. We will leave it at the $135 because we would like to receipt that full amount. Is it a booking deposit? Yes or no? Most of the time, if you're taking a payment and it's in relation to something such as accommodation or their stay cost, it is going to be on yes, which we can see my system has actually been defaulted to advise that any payment is a deposit. On the right hand side is the paid by section, which is simply auto-filling Paul Smith's name as he is a primary guest for this stay. A quick FYI with this one, if you do happen to have additional guests' names registered to this stay, they will appear in this drop-down selection once you click onto that. It's great if you would like to receipt payments under a different person's name that is staying with that particular booking. The sub-client account section here is outlining where within the client account the payment will be receipted. As we're taking accommodation payments today, we would like it to fall into this section here. We'll be taking a bit more of a look into sub-client accounts to get a really good understanding of those a little later. The next section is the generate receipt option. We provide you with system template options for receipts and invoices, which will automatically be selected when you do a payment or do a invoice or those sorts of actions within the system. This one is simply using our default receipt template today. We will cover contact templates and system templates within a separate video tutorial. Our last section here is our generated when, so the date that we're actually taking the payment. Moving underneath, we have our three options as to how we would like to process a payment. The first section here is what we call manual payments. This is indicating any sort of payment where you might be receiving money directly from the guests themselves, such as a guest handing you cash or handing you a check, or potentially even depositing money into your bank account directly. And you simply are manually receipting the payment within the NewBook system to reflect that you have have successfully received it from the guest externally. In addition to that, it also works for credit cards, where you may have a credit card machine at your front office where you insert cards or swipe cards and process them through the terminal itself. Then you're simply manually receipting the payment with a NewBook to reflect that it was successfully processed through that machine. Once we click on the manual payment options here, it shows the different payment types as I was outlining a moment ago. These are the payment types that I have set up for my particular system. You are able to enable other payment types by utilizing the menu search within the system and heading to payment types to enable and disable various ones that you would like to have. If you've accidentally selected the wrong processing method, we're able to select the red box here to start over, which will clear the manual payment option for us, where we can have a look at the other ways in which we can process a payment within the system. The second one is our credit card gateway. This is something that you would need to have set up between NewBook and a third-party credit card gateway provider. What it allows you to do is actually enter card details within NewBook and process the card through the system directly into your bank account without having to use a credit card terminal at all. It can also be extended where you can use this on your NewBook online page, so when guests are making bookings online, they're able to enter their credit card and process a payment, and then the booking will drop in reflecting it has actually been paid. If you are interested in having a credit card gateway connected and you don't already, give our support team a call and we can provide you with some further information on this. If you do actually have a credit card gateway connected and you would like to process payments through this option, you will always need to select this here. Once we click on that area, if the guest did happen to have a credit card on file, it would be listed in here. If they haven't, you're able to add one in. A credit card authorization box will appear with the card name of the guest, where we enter the details and the expiry. I'm just using a test credit card for training purposes. Once we've saved that, you'll be able to see that it's selected the Visa card ending in 0000. And it's actually saying to process this amount through the gateway. Underneath here, the button has actually updated to tell you it will process the card through the gateway and save. If it goes through, it will take you straight to the receipt page. If it does not go through, it would work just like any credit card machine does, where it will throw you a red warning message or an error message advising that they had insufficient funds or to contact the bank or it's declined due to a particular reason. So you'll have to then, request an alternate payment option from that guest. Again, credit card gateway connections can be established. We just need to get that connected for you. If you're interested, contact our support team for further information. Using the Start Over button, I'd like to take us back to the previous screen where we will have a look at our last payment processing option called Integrated EFTPOS Terminals. This feature is only available to clients who have been licensed for this particular feature and is only available for specific credit card terminals or machines. What it will allow you to do is actually send a transaction to a machine where it will light up with the transaction amount that needs to be processed. The guest would then be present to enter their card or swipe their card and receipt the payment that way. Once it goes through, it sends a message back to NewBook advising whether it was successful or not, and if it was, it will then automatically generate a receipt for you. So it is a great tool. If you would like further information on that or like to have that set up, definitely give our support team a call for some additional information. For training purposes today, we'll be utilizing the manual payment option. So anytime I'm using this, remembering it's to receipt things such as cash, checks, or to record that a bank deposit has been made into your bank account, or if we've taken a credit card payment through an actual machine and we're reflecting that it was successful in NewBook. Clicking on manual payments, I'd like to use the cash option where Paul has actually handed me $150. Once I've entered it into the tendered section, you'll see the change given appears below, so we know that we're handing back the correct amount of money. There are now also the options as to what we'd like to do once we've saved this payment with the receipt that we'll create. First one is to view the receipt as a PDF, which is a great option when a guest is in front of us and we would like to print something off and hand it to them. The second option we have is being able to automatically send the receipt to the guest once we've saved this payment, along with a default template that NewBook has set for you. The third and final option here is to actually send the receipt to the guest, but it allows the staff member to select what particular template they'd like to send along with it, such as a booking confirmation or something personalized. We will stick within the view receipt option for now to keep it nice and easy. Moving below, before we save this payment, I would like to point out that this section here is quite important. It's letting us know exactly where this $135 payment will be applied against or reconciled against within the booking client account for Paul. Each charge that you see listed here is in relation to his standard tariff or rate, where he's being charged per night for his stay. So we know that when we save this, that payment is automatically going to reconcile against those charges to reflect that they have been paid off successfully in full. Once we select save, it's going to take us directly to our receipt PDF, where we can see it generates our tax receipt with his booking reference, site details, arrival and departure, and also outlines the charges that were generated on his client account that were outstanding at one point, but with our payment today have now balanced his account down to the $0 amount. So that is receiving a payment for a guest that is in-house with an outstanding balance. We've recorded it as a manual cash payment and we've generated the receipt. Please note in the top options here, if I would like to print that off, I can and hand it to the guest. If I've now decided I'd like to email it, I can also use the contact button here to send to the guest, where I can select my contact template, which I'd like to attach along with the receipt, such as my receipt attached one. The attachment automatically pre-fills in here, but the template itself is automatically filling in the information that we'll be sending to the guest today. So, dear Paul, thank you for your payment. Attached is your receipt for the payment of $135. Simply select send email and that is done. So that's our first scenario completed. The next scenario I would like to take a look at is searching for a guest that has called over the phone and would like to make a payment. Zoe Brown has called today and would like to make a deposit towards her booking. She's given me her booking ID, which we're entering into the global search in the top left and selecting enter. Once that has located Zoe's booking, which you can see here, we simply click into the booking ID, which will take us to the view of the booking. Initially, we can see red text, always indicating that there's an outstanding balance. Another thing that I would like to point out is the status, which is unconfirmed. It's generally indicating that they have paid potentially nothing at all or not enough of the booking for it to automatically have confirmed in the system. So to identify exactly what has been paid or hasn't been paid is what we can look at below here. So her actual stay costs, her rates or her tariffs are $900 in total. And I can see the red payment box here shows us the overall remaining balance for her actual stay, which is $900. But the green box here is actually telling us the amount that she needs to pay in order to confirm her booking. So she only really needs to pay $100 today in order for the system to know to confirm her booking. So clicking into the pay deposit button here, you'll be able to see it brings the add payment pop-up screen again, where it's automatically filled in all appropriate areas for us at the top, and we simply need to select how we're going to process that payment. As Zoe's calling over the phone and would like to pay a deposit via a credit card, I will be using the credit card gateway option for this particular payment, as I'd like to show you how that functions. Again, this is something that you need to actually have set up within your system to be able to use. So if you would require further information, please give our support team a call and we can provide you with that. So for training purposes, clicking on the credit card gateway option, if they have a card that's previously been saved within their profile, it'll appear here. If you'd like to charge a separate card or a different one, you simply select add new and register the new card details to process. I'll be selecting this one to take the $100 payment today. You'll notice it reloads the section to show which card it will be charging, and we have the same options as to how we would like to deal with the receipt after this. What I would like to do is, again, just view the receipt, and this time, instead of the button just saying save, like it would if it were a manual payment, it's actually changed to say process card through the gateway and save. So remember, that will actually go directly in your bank account. You do not need to process it through an actual credit card machine. So once we've selected that, if it goes through and it's successful, it'll take you to the receipt page. And you'll notice that the receipt actually has a payment listed against it with a reference number. This is an automatically generated reference number from the credit card gateway, and that's how you can identify at a glance on a client account whether you've done a manual card payment or a gateway card payment. Now, before we move on to the next scenario, I would just like to take us back to view the booking, where you'll be able to see that the booking status is updated to confirmed because we took the $100 deposit. The overall balance outstanding has now gone down to $800, and the booking client account also matches the $800 outstanding amount. So that is how we can locate a existing booking in the system where a guest is called to pay off a partial amount of their stay. The next scenario we will be taking a look at is how to pay off an account that uses repeat charges as opposed to quoted tariffs or quoted rates. For those of you who have a lot of long-term bookings within the system that may use what we call a repeat charge as opposed to using nightly rates, when it comes to making a payment, it's imperative that you do it within the actual client account that you've raised those items within. So we're going to take a look at a booking that I have in-house today, heading to my today's summary and my guest in-house list, and we're locating a booking for Brad Hiller. Now, he has been in-house at my property since January this year, and he's staying all the way through until 2022. I can see quite clearly there is a debit amount overall that is outstanding on his client account. When it comes to paying these particular ones off, you can actually go straight into their client account from here by clicking into that amount. The great thing with that is it's a little quicker. You don't have to view the booking and then click into the account. You can just go straight into this section. The top outlines again in red, he has an outstanding balance. And moving down, there is an area here called our sub-client accounts. These essentially allow us to group different types of charges on an account. You can see I have a line here called accommodation, and on the right I can see a specific amount outstanding for that area of the account. Underneath I have another one called electricity, and I have a total amount outstanding here as well. Then the overall balance on my client account is $570.81. So that's the combined total outstanding balance that this particular person has. If we were wanting to see exactly what those charges are made up of, we can then scroll down a little further and we get to our client account ledger. This outlines exactly what specific charges are raised on the client account. It's also where we find any payments, invoices, and even receipts for the payments. So the client account is where you go to get an overall look at every single thing that has occurred on that person's client account for that stay. With this specific scenario, I'd like to show you how to pay off the account in its entirety. We have the option in the sub-client account section here where it has the total amounts outstanding. There's a pay amount column. We're able to actually enter the amounts for each sub-account that's outstanding and then do a bulk payment underneath, and that will pay off all charges that are outstanding, and it'll also automatically reconcile those payments against the charges that are already raised on the account. So once I select my new payment box, a pop-up will appear. The payment amount also defaults in here for us. The sub-client account section is just giving us a little bit of an overview of exactly what's happening. So what the opening balance was, with the payment amount that we're making today, what the closing balance will be. So we can see they're both going to be left at that lovely zero amount. We'll be doing manual payments again. This one he's actually paid directly into my bank account, and I've seen that today, so I would like to record that. So we click onto that, And then we will select our view receipt and save. The receipt will create automatically for us. And the best thing about this is it's one receipt, but it actually splits out those payments to show exactly what they paid off. The first section at the top here has the accommodation. It shows exactly what charges it's been applied against and the actual payment amount, leaving it at $0 balance. Moving underneath there, we also have our electricity. It shows the outstanding charges, the payment made, and the $0 balance for that area of the account as well. So it's a great way to make one payment across multiple areas of the account and provide a guest with a receipt that splits those amounts out for them. In addition to this scenario, I would like to take a look at another long-term booking that has a repeat charge set up on it, but I would like to show you how you're able to pay off just one item within the client account. So let's head into our today's summary and into our guest and house list. And we're going to take a look at Lisa Colombo's booking. So she has got a overall client account balance of $542.52 debit. I will click straight into her client account balance from here, which takes us directly into that account. We can see the red text at the top indicating she again has an amount outstanding. The sub-client accounts here indicating exactly how much is owed within each of those areas of her account, the overall balance outstanding, and underneath that a full ledger or list of items that have been generated onto her account during her stay. With this particular option, she's come into the office and would just like to pay off some of her electricity. So instead of using our sub-client account payment option up here, I'd like to show you how you can actually specify a particular charge that you would like to pay off. So moving down into this section here, you'll notice there are tick boxes. You'll also notice that there are a number of items that appear in this lovely green color. Green is indicating that the status of an item has been paid in full, which means there's no longer any amount outstanding for that particular charge. A payment that appears in green is indicating that that whole payment amount has been reconciled against charges on the client account and is fully absorbed, so there's no available credit left in it. It's applied to everything it needed to be applied against. Now, the ones that appear in the grey or the white, you'll see are actually stating unpaid. So this status column is really handy to look at because it tells you at a glance what particular items are actually outstanding on a client account. She would like to pay her electricity charges today, so I'm specifically going to tick these two charges, and with those selected items, I'll select the pay button. Once I click on this, it takes us straight to the payment page where, as we've done prior to this particular scenario, all of the top sections are defaulted based on her current settings. We have our payment processing options, and underneath here where it says apply to items, you'll notice electricity is the only one that has items ticked on it. My invoice that's outstanding also for accommodation is not ticked because we are not paying off that particular charge. We're just paying off the items within the electricity section. And the total here automatically pre-filled as it knows that is the exact amount outstanding within those particular charges. So we'll select our manual payment option. I'm using cash this time. Let's say she's handed us or tendered us $70. We now need to give her $4.75 change. She would like a printed receipt. So I will leave it on this option and we simply save. The receipt will then generate for us. Again, tax receipt number. It shows electricity as a sub-client account. It's specifying those two charges that I ticked and the payment that has been applied against those, leaving her electricity area at a $0 balance. So if we were to look back at the client account, we'll see she's still in red because she legitimately does still have items outstanding, but we can see quite clearly the electricity is at a lovely $0 balance, and these two charges are now appearing in the green color as they are now paid in full. Another great tool within a client account when you're wanting to look at specific types of charges on an account is the option to actually click on a particular sub-client account. What it does is it refreshes the page, and you'll see underneath here, it actually reloads the client account and it just shows items relating to the sub-client account in question. If I'd like to go back and view all items within the client account, I simply click back to all client account overall, and it will now show those items relating to electricity as well. It's just a great way to filter out what we're looking at on an account and hide things that we are not interested in looking at. So that is how we can pay off a particular item in a client account. One last payment option I would like to show you within this particular client account is the option to partially pay off an outstanding balance. Now, she has got in her accommodation line $477.27 outstanding. I could, if I wanted to, use the pay amount here to enter $200, but I also do have the option to actually tick the particular charge I'd like to pay off. It's entirely up to you which you would prefer. Because there is a charge already raised on their account, no matter which of these two options you use for this specific scenario, NewBook will know to apply or reconcile that $200 payment against that outstanding charge. So let's utilize the sub-client account section here, enter our $200 and then new payment. Our payment box appears. All of the top section will remain the same. Selecting our manual payment option as cash and save, keeping it nice and simple. The receipt will now generate, and we'll be able to see the invoice and the charge that has essentially been paid, but it does indicate underneath that $200 has been paid only, and the outstanding balance is $277.27. So when we pop back onto that client account, we'll be able to see that here. And the main thing to notice with this is that the status column for this particular invoice and charge is still in the white or grey color because it is still not paid in full. But it is indicating that there is $200 that has been paid off towards it. That's where we get that overall outstanding balance here for us nicely. The last payment scenario I'd like to take a look at today is for those businesses who may sell miscellaneous items over the counter, such as newspapers, bottles of water, that sort of thing, where any person could potentially buy that. And they might not even have a booking with you, but they would like to purchase that, and you need to reflect it in the system. We have a specific account for that, which can be found in our menu search, called Cash Account. So this particular one is used because it's not tied to a particular person. It's not receipting under a particular person's name. We're simply allowing ourselves to add a charge for what it is that they're buying and pay it off so that our end of day reports reflect correctly for the money that we might have in our till or the money that we've taken through our credit card machine and so on. The cash account works exactly like any other kind of client account in the system. It looks identical. However, it may not always have items within it. This particular account should always be balanced. There's really no reason that it should ever have an outstanding debit on it because it's used for the circumstances or scenarios where people are purchasing something and paying for it straight away. In this particular instance, I would like to add a charge to reflect what someone is buying. So we're going to head to the top of the page and select Add New Charge. That takes us to our Add Charge page where we have the option to select from a list of our inventory items that have been previously set up. You can search or select the arrow. I will just type in can of Coke where I can select the item. It pre-fills all of these details correctly for us. I've got the amount, the sub-client account that it'll fall in within my cash account, where my revenue is going against, how many cans of Coke I would like to purchase. So I could up that to 2 if I'd like, and it just recalculates the total for us. So if somebody is purchasing that right away, we want to pay it off straight away. So our easiest way to do that is to select our Save and Pay option. Once we select that, it takes us to our Add Payment page. It knows it's receiving that amount within the cash account for $4. Our kiosk sales is the area within the sub-client account that it will raise those charges. And we can see that both of those cans of Coke have been ticked to be paid off. We'll click on our manual option. We'll do cash and save. Very simple. You'll notice the receipt says cash account, because again, it's just recording a payment that has been made. It's not under any particular person's name. And underneath, you'll be able to also notice the 2 charges that were in debit and the payment that is being applied to pay them off. Because we've now paid that off, I'd like to take us back into view the actual client account here so that we can see that everything has been settled correctly. So we can see the overall balance is $0. We have our payment that we made and our 2 charges for the cans of Coke. Both charges appear in that lovely green color because they are both paid in full, and the payment also appears in green because it is fully applied or fully reconciled to absorb those charges. I hope you've enjoyed learning how to receipt payments throughout the NewBook system. The next area we are going to take a look at is refunds. There are a number of ways to process refunds throughout the NewBook system. The first scenario I would like to touch on is when we offer a refund to a guest for a cancelled booking. To locate our booking, we are going to use our global search. I'm placing in the booking ID that the guest has given me over the phone and pressing enter in our global search. Once that appears, we can click into the booking tab where we have our particular booking that Kate Brown would like to cancel. The first thing I would like to note is that she still owes money for her booking because of that red text, but she's confirmed, so that generally indicates she's paid something. To get a full understanding of exactly what she has paid already, we can have a look within this section here. So starting from the top down, we can see quoted tariffs or quoted rates are the total of $278 for her stay cost. But I can also see that there is a deposit payment that has been received for $139, leaving her overall balance at the minute at $139. So I would confirm with Kate over the phone and say, "Hi Kate, not a problem at all. We're happy to cancel your booking. You are eligible for a refund. I can see that you have paid $139, so we'll be able to issue that back to you." First step with this particular one is actually cancelling the booking. So it's still confirmed at the minute. I can do this by heading to the update button and selecting the cancel icon. A pop-up will appear indicating that when I cancel this, it'll void any billing that has raised onto that client account. So it'll basically clear everything off of the account other than any existing payments or refunds. It'll update the status to cancelled. We're able to place a reason in here if we wish. And if I would like to, I can also create my own reasons on the right-hand side. I will simply select cancel booking, and please note how the status has changed here to cancelled with the reason beside it. The rate or tariff has been crossed out and it's now placed our booking account into credit. So it's now available to be refunded. That is such an important step with this particular process because she still had charges raised on her account. So there was technically no credit available to give back because she still owed money. So that cancellation process is the first step we would need to do. And now we're able to go and refund that balance to her. I recommend going into the booking client account to do this, mainly because it's just a great way to get used to client accounts, but also just in case there's multiple payments that have been receipted on her account, you can sort of see a bit more of an idea of what's going on. So simply clicking into the booking client account where the $139 is sitting in credit, it takes us into Kate Brown's client account for this particular booking. Her overall balance is $139 in credit. And to see exactly what that credit is made up of, I can have a look within my client account ledger. So there's one item on there being this particular payment, which was receipted on the 19th of March. Her receipt is here if I wanted to reprint that, and the amount that she actually paid. So if we're happy to give that back to her, it's very simple. I simply tick the payment to pick up that available balance and I select refund underneath. Before I get to that screen, just notice that she has initially paid as cash. So if you're happy to give cash back, then 100% go and do so. Otherwise, some businesses prefer to transfer into their bank account and get their bank details first, or maybe they offer refunds onto credit cards. It's really entirely up to you as a business how you choose to do them. Just note that at the end of the day, when you do your balancing, it will obviously show any refunds that you've done and any payments. So selecting our refund button below, it will take us to our add refund page. Very much the same as our payment screen. However, when we're doing a refund and we've selected what payment we're giving back, you'll notice that it's automatically selected the refund amount based on what the available credit was within that payment that we selected. Moving down as well, it actually automatically selects that it would like to refund as cash because we've ticked the original payment marked as cash, and the system is prompting that you should return it as cash. Again, using the Start Over button will allow you to clear the refund of cash and select a different refund method if you would like to. However, I would like to keep this nice and simple and refund this as cash. We're able to view the receipt to print it off. We're able to automatically send the receipt for the refund along with a contact template, or we can email this receipt off to Kate and actually select what particular template we'd like to send with it. I'm going to use this particular scenario because I'd like to send her a cancellation email so that she knows that we've 100% processed everything and it's all completed for her. Now that I've selected this one, we simply save. So you'll notice that it has completely bypassed the view of that receipt because it's taken us straight to the send contact page where it's pulled through Kate's email address from her guest profile. And underneath we have the option to select the template we'd like to attach along with her receipt PDF that's already there for us. Within our list here, I'd like to select our cancellation email. The email content will then preview within this section where I can then simply send that off to her, and that is our process completed. I always recommend having a look at the actual booking once you've completed a cancellation and a refund just to make sure everything balances. So clicking on the view booking icon in the top bar and cross-checking that the balance has the $0 amount here in the green, which is perfect, and also that their booking client account directly underneath is matching 0 as well. So that is a cancellation for a guest who has called and would like to cancel and was eligible for a full refund. The next scenario for refunds we'll be looking at is when we need to refund some balance back to a guest, maybe due to a modification of their booking, such as reducing the amount of nights that they are staying. With this particular scenario, I'm going to use our global search in the top left to enter a booking ID for Zoe Brown, who has called and is wanting to reduce the amount of nights that she will be staying with us. So once our global search brings up the booking tab and we've located the correct one and cross-check those details with Zoe, click into the booking ID here to take us to the view of her particular one, and we can cross-check her dates, her status, and her $0 balance indicating she has paid in full. Now, if she's wanting to actually make an amendment for her dates, it is so important for you to remember to actually edit the booking to make those changes. You should never just manually void a charge from a client account if it's to do with their stay, because those details come from within the booking. This is currently saved with 2 nights. The rate is saved at $407, which means the client account is reflecting what is saved within the booking. So if they want to reduce their stay, very simple, we edit the booking. I check what dates you'd like to reduce. You'd just like to stay the night of the 22nd, so I can use the booking length to -1 night off, and I simply select save. NewBook does the rest. Once it saves that, it corrects those dates. The length is now 1, and it voids that nightly charge that she's no longer incurring because she's not staying. We can see the 201 has gone into credit for us, so that's what we owe her back, and we can refund her the exact same way I just did a moment ago in our previous scenario. We will go into the booking client account where that credit is sitting. We're in Zoe Brown's client account for her booking. Her overall balance is in 201 credit. Her client account ledger lists all those items that are listed within her account. You'll notice there is a charge for her standard rate or tariff for the night of the 22nd, and it's in green indicating it's paid in full because she had previously paid for that. However, this payment above is in the grey because there is some available credit for us to give back to her. This particular refund I'll be processing now is a refund via the credit card gateway. Before I do this particular process, I would just like to point out again, when it's a credit card gateway transaction, it won't just have the initial payment ID that NewBook generates, it also has an additional payment reference generated by the gateway. If it was processed via the gateway, we can refund onto the exact same credit card via the gateway. I tick the payment to pick up the available balance to give back. I select refund underneath. It takes us back to the refund page, automatically fills in the amount that is in credit to give back to her. It's automatically selected to refund via the gateway to that exact same card it was paid by initially. And we simply select how we want to deal with the receipt and we refund through the gateway and save. If it goes through, it means it has successfully refunded that money straight back onto that card out of your bank account instantly. Again, no need to use an actual terminal if we are doing it via the gateway. Our receipt displays here for us, and you'll be able to see the Visa refund ID and the reference generated by the gateway. Very, very simple. That's our second scenario completed. The next one I would like to take a look at is refunding someone who has accidentally overpaid, maybe by a human error. Let's say a staff member has accidentally processed more than they were meant to, and they need to refund the difference. This next scenario looks into amending a booking where a staff member has accidentally processed full payment as opposed to just a deposit. When we make a booking, in the right-hand box over here under the booking billing, it indicates if the guest is able to pay just an initial deposit or if they potentially have to pay in full. If a staff member was meant to take just the $175 but accidentally clicked into the full payment box, it will bring up that amount to take. And if the staff member doesn't adjust it on this page, they're actually going to be processing that amount, especially if they're doing it via the credit card gateway. With this scenario, Erin is called and would like to pay via her credit card. I've got a credit card gateway set up, so I'll utilize this option. She's provided me with her credit card details previously, and we'll select that particular card. I'd also like to automatically email a receipt copy to her so she gets it straight away. As soon as I've pressed this process card through gateway and save, that actually will take the money, and it's also emailed that receipt straight away to Erin, so she's going to get a copy of that and see that we have overcharged her. I myself may also be looking at this receipt going, oh, I've accidentally taken the full amount instead of the $175. If we pop back to view the booking, you'll see it's fully balanced with the zero amount here, and the booking client account is also matching. When we click into the booking client account, we'll also see the overall balance again at the zero, and the client account ledger displaying the payment for $1,225 and the charges relating to her nightly rates or tariffs for her stay. And each of those have been paid in full. So they're all in the green color and they are all paid in full, which means there is no available credit left to give back to her as it's fully reconciled or absorbed or applied against those charges. That's okay, we are still able to refund the balance that we owe back to her. It's slightly different to a standard refund. If we need to do this particular process, you'll need to ensure that you click into the payment and in the top bar, edit payment. Once we've selected this, it actually allows us to untick the charges that are soaking up that credit. I know that we are still retaining $175 from her for that deposit and simply refunding the difference back to her. In order for me to achieve this particular process, then I'm just going to untick all of the other nights other than the first one, which is for $175. Again, that's the deposit amount. So when I save this, what it does, the payment becomes unapplied. However, $175 of it is still paying off a charge, so it's been absorbed. So some of the balance we're keeping, but these other charges are now listed as unpaid, and the payment is now in grey and eligible for us to refund that balance. So we tick the payment. I use the refund button under here. The system takes us to the refund add page where it knows to only refund $1,050 back to the guest, straight onto her credit card that she initially paid with via the gateway, and we refund and save. So that goes straight back into her bank account. The receipt will show the initial payment for $1,225 that we took. It then shows the charge that we have reconciled some of that payment against, and also the refund of $1,050 that leaves her client account now in a balance owing of $1,050, which she can pay on arrival when she gets here. Moving back to view the booking, it'll go back into the red. However, it is confirmed because we took that initial deposit and the balance is outstanding at $1,050 and the booking client account is matching perfectly. If we click back into the client account to have a bit of a look as well, we will be able to see that the payment of $1,225 has had a $1,050 refund done, and also $175 has been kept, but they still owe these charges on arrival. That brings us to the end of this particular scenario. When it comes to processing any kind of payment or refund in NewBook, always cross-check what you are doing before you complete that transaction. That way, when it comes to the end of the day and you need to balance all of your payments and refunds, you won't have to go back and make any changes. That does bring us to the end of our payment and refund section. Next, we are going to have a look at exactly how we can raise invoices in our bookings and send them off to different companies, travel agents, or even our booking guests in order for them to make payment for their bookings. Invoicing is a great feature to use in the system, especially for those of you who may have different types of guests that are traveling and staying at your property. By creating an invoice, we're able to display exactly what it is that that particular person owes your business. In addition to that, invoicing can also have a due date that they have to pay that by, and we also have a great report that we can use to manage any unpaid or overdue invoices. The first invoice scenario we'll take a look at today is creating one for a guest that has requested a tax invoice. She likes to keep documents on file of all her expenditures for her personal travel. I'm simply going to locate her booking in the global search for Michelle Jones. We then need to go into our bookings tab here to locate the particular booking she's after. I'd like to go to her future booking for April. Selecting on the booking ID where it shows in red that she has an outstanding balance again, she's unconfirmed, her total tariffal rate is 1120 and that is her overall balance outstanding here, and it's matching on the booking client account. Again, those are the great areas to cross-check before you take any next steps. Now, in order for us to actually generate an invoice, the charges must be raised on the client account, which they already are. If we wanted to create an invoice, we click into the booking client account, which takes us into Michelle Jones' booking client account with an overall balance of 1120, and her items are listed directly underneath. All of these charges are in the grey and white color, as each of them is unpaid. To generate this invoice, we simply highlight and tick all associated charges that she'd like to be invoiced for, and with the selected items, we click on the invoice option. The top area of the screen is outlining some of the invoice details. I would like to just touch on some of the main components to keep this first scenario quite simple. Firstly, we have our client account, simply advising us where the invoice is being generated into, which is Michelle's booking client account. Next, we have our generated when, which will generally default to your current day. Directly below is our due on date, which my system settings are currently set to 14 days after the invoice has been generated. So basically 14 days from today. This is something that you're entirely able to change. It is a setting that can be found within your instance settings. The invoice total here is simply listing what the grand total of all these charges is. So what we're actually invoicing her for. On the right is the invoiced issued to, which is the primary guest for this particular booking. If there were other additional guests registered to that booking correctly, we would be able to change the name if they wanted the invoice under a different guest name. The group by function is a great tool as it allows you to adjust the way in which the charges within an invoice will actually display to the person you're sending it to. Some people would like to list out the individual items. Others like to group things together as a grand total. For this particular scenario, I would like to group it by the item description. So because they're all called a standard rate or tariff, it should put everything into one line with a grand total. If you are wanting to split it out, the other option I would suggest is to say no grouping, and it will just itemize all the charges as they appear on the client account. Moving under, we have our PDF template. NewBook will automatically select our system default template for you. However, please note you are able to create your own invoice templates if you would like to. This is something we will cover separately in another video tutorial. Moving down, we have our select items to invoice, which you'll notice all of the charges that are listed here are already pre-selected or pre-ticked because I selected them on the previous page within the client account. If we were happy with all of the settings that we've just cross-checked, all we really need to do is select save. That then creates an invoice ID. It lets us know that it is unpaid, but it is not due until the 15th of April. So there is a little bit of time for this person to pay. Underneath here, it now displays the invoice PDF for us. As I was saying, it's grouping my charges by the description. So we have 7 times standard rates to the total of 1,120. If we scroll down to the bottom of the template, I would just like to point out that you are able to insert various payment options that you'd like to provide to the guest or the person in which you are sending this through to. If I wanted to print, I can, and hand it to the guest if they were in front of me. With this particular one, I'd like to send this off to Michelle. And the contact template here, I'm simply going to use one that we have pre-saved called Invoice Attached. It's very basic, but it pre-fills the content for me. So, dear Michelle, please find attached your invoice. It also gives them a link to pay the invoice online, as I have got a credit card gateway and I also have a website. The PDF attachment is automatically attached within this area, so all that is left to do is select send email, and that's that. Takes us back to our invoice page, where we get the success message showing that that has been sent off to her also. If we place ourselves back to view the booking, her additional information here under the contact section will display that we sent the invoice to her. Her balance is still outstanding at the 1120, and her client account is also matching that. However, when we click into the booking client account here, we'll see that it actually displays an invoice number. If you would like to view the PDF invoice and reprint it or resend it, you can click on the invoice number again, and it takes us straight back to that screen we were on previously. Otherwise, if you just wanted to see what actual items are within the invoice without having to open it up, the little arrow to the left-hand side will allow you to expand the invoice, where it shows all the charges that are included within this invoice here. Over on the right, the overall status of this invoice is unpaid, the overall amount of the invoice is 1120, and the outstanding balance again is 1120. That completes our first scenario of creating an invoice for a standard booking and emailing that off to a guest. The next one I would like to look at is how we can actually locate an invoice in the system and pay it off. With this scenario, I would like to locate an existing invoice in the system and pay it off. I have a guest on the phone who is providing me with her invoice number so I can locate it in the system. Using our global search, we'll enter the invoice number, select enter. It will now search through the system, and because I've been so specific, it's actually automatically identified that there is an invoice in the system with that exact ID on it. So you can see it's taken us to the invoice tab, and it is showing invoice number 9177 on here for us. We don't even need to go into it if we just needed to let her know if it has been paid, that sort of thing, because we can see here the status of the invoice. So it's unpaid at the minute, but I want to pay it off. So we'll click on the invoice number. It takes us to a view of the invoice, where in the top next to my send contact, I also have a pay invoice button. If she would like to pay in full, we can click pay invoice. As we've done previously, it will take us to our add payment screen, where we cross-check all relative settings and then select how we would like to process this particular payment. Let's go with a credit card payment option today, and I'd like to show you how we can do the payment whilst also logging her credit card details. So clicking on the credit card gateway, we'll add new as there are no current credit cards on her guest profile. Add new, the pop-up window will appear with her card name, number and expiry for us to enter. I'll use my testing card for training purposes and my expiry and save. The card is now being selected here. If I would like to print the receipt, I simply leave it on View Receipt PDF. If I'd like to send her an automatic email with the receipt attached, I will click this option here and process through the gateway and save. The great thing about that is it's updated and processed the credit card. It's confirmed her booking. It's receipted the payment, it's emailed the receipt, and it's also created that payment on the client account. So everything is now settled. So her booking should look a little different now. When we go back to view the booking, there will be no red text as she's fully paid. Her status is confirmed, her balance is 0, and so is her booking client account balance. If we were to take a look within the booking client account, we'll see the invoice is now in green and it is paid in full, and the payment is also in green because the money has been applied against that total invoice. In addition to this scenario, I would like to locate another invoice in the system that has already been partially paid and just has a balance outstanding. So I'd like to show you what that looks like. We're locating a booking for Lisa Colombo using our global search in the top left. You'll notice this time I entered her name, so it didn't default straight into the invoice section as I've put her guest name. There's multiple areas in the system with her name listed. However, I can still click on the invoice tab where you'll see it shows any invoices relating to her. The greatest thing about this is I can actually see that there are 2 in green. Again, that means it's paid in full. Whereas this one here at the top is appearing in the grey, and it's only had $200 paid of it out of the total $477.27. Now, because it can identify that there's some money already paid off against it, if I were to click into the invoice now and utilize our Pay Invoice button in the top bar, it knows exactly what the balance outstanding is because of that partial payment that's already been received. So if we're happy to simply pay off the remaining balance within the invoice, I am then able to select how I would like to process that payment. I'll be utilizing manual payments for this scenario, as she has actually deposited that money directly into my bank account and it has cleared. So I would like to reflect that it's successfully been receipted in the system. Simply save, and she's standing in front of me, so I'd like to print this receipt off for her. So that is how we can locate actual invoices in the system, click into them from our global search and pay them off. The next scenario I would like to show you is when you're within a client account, how to locate a particular invoice that you would like to pay off. This next scenario, we'll be taking a look at an in-house guest who has been in our property for a long time and has invoices that raise every month for her rental fees, and she also gets charged for electricity. So I'd like to take a look at that client account so you can get a good understanding of how different invoices appear, whether they're paid off, outstanding, or overdue. Heading into our today's summary, we'll go to our in-house list and locate the booking for Sarah Jones. All booking details are listed here, and on the right we're going to click straight into her client account balance. We'll see the red text always indicating there's an outstanding balance. Her sub-client accounts are showing specific amounts outstanding within each area, and then underneath is our overall balance for her client account. The list of items within her client account ledger help us identify what that total is made up of. Any item that is not listed in green will generally be the item that is unpaid or overdue. As an example, this payment in green indicating it's fully reconciled, which means it's fully applied to a charge on account. So it's fully used up. There's no available credit. And directly underneath that, we also see a invoice for her permanent rent for December to April for this total here, and it is paid in full. At that point in time, once they'd paid that particular invoice, their balance then went down to 0. However, another invoice was raised on the same day for a monthly fee from April to May. This is actually unpaid and it's overdue. So the invoice due date has been and gone, and it is now outstanding and still unpaid. When that went on to the client account, we can see the overall balance now shows that they have a debit. Moving underneath that, there was also another charge or invoice raised on the 1st of April for their May to June fees. This is listed in the white or grey colour as it's not yet overdue. It's simply just unpaid at this stage. So it's added another monthly charge on, and their overall balance at that point in time now goes up to $954.54. Directly underneath here also we have a electricity invoice for her June till March electricity fees, also generated today but listed under her electricity sub-client account and unpaid not yet overdue. So that's a good indicator of how to read different types of invoices on a client account. Green, generally fully paid and reconciled. Yellow will mean that it is overdue and unpaid. White or grey means it's unpaid, but it hasn't yet crossed over that due date. If you're wanting to pay off one of these particular invoices within the client account, we have the option to tick the specific invoice here and select with selected items, pay. It takes us straight to our add payment screen. It pre-fills the amount outstanding within that specific invoice, as that's the one that I have selected. We're then free to select how we'd like to process the payment. I'll simply use our manual payment for now. They've come in and paid with their savings card, and we'd like to print a receipt and save. That creates the payment on our account and receipts it. So we see our tax receipt here showing the invoice number with the charge within it that was outstanding, and the FPOS payment receipted today, which has now reduced their overall balance to $477.27 within that particular area of her account. If we go and look back on her client account here, we will see that the overall balance has gone down. So has the balance within her accommodation line, but her electricity is still fully outstanding as we've not paid anything off in that area. You'll notice that the invoice now changes to green and it is paid in full. The invoice below is still unpaid, and so is this one here. You are able to bulk pay off invoices, so if she would like to settle her account today for all outstanding items, we can tick both invoices and select pay. It will know to split the money across the correct areas of the account and create one receipt for her. It's created a receipt for that payment, and it's splitting it out over the two separate areas of her client account for accommodation and electricity. When we head back, we will be able to see a lovely $0 balance listed here, and all items are green and paid in full. So it's a perfect client account now, and she has nothing left over to pay. The last scenario I'd like to take a look at in regards to invoices is how you're actually able to locate all of them within the system. Heading over to our menu search on the left, we're able to enter our invoices report and click into that option to load this for us. Once we're on the screen, we have a variation of settings that we're able to configure based on what invoices I'd like to look at. For this particular example, I'd like to run invoices that have been created within the current year, so the year of 2020. And I'd also like to show all invoices, not just overdue or unpaid. I'd like to show every single invoice. Once I've clicked on all, I'm then going to run the report, which will outline a list of invoices in our system that have been created in 2020. The first column is the client account in which the invoices have been raised within. The second column is the invoice number itself, and the third is who it was actually invoiced to, so the name of the person. We've got the description of the invoice, and most importantly, the last three columns are advising us when the invoice was due, how much each invoice was, and what the actual balance due is. In addition to that, all of these green ones that we see here, straight away I can tell if they're green, they are fully paid. And another way to tell is because their invoice balance due section says 0 for all of them. However, we do have two yellow invoices appearing here, which indicates that they are unpaid and they're also overdue. The amounts over here indicate there's a $17,600 debt for this particular one, and that is exactly what's due, so nothing has been paid for that at all. And same with this particular one here, it's $150 for the invoice, and that's exactly what's outstanding. Now the particular one for this booking here for Zoe Brown indicates that she has got an invoice and it is unpaid, but it's not overdue yet. So she still has up until the 8th of April to pay this invoice before it comes overdue. The bottom of this list I'd like to show you actually gives you a total for all invoices that are essentially unpaid and overdue that we're expecting to have money for at some stage. It's a great indicator of charges that have been placed within invoices that are still outstanding and what we are owed. If we'd like to send an email to each of these clients whom have a overdue and outstanding invoice, we can utilize the tick boxes beside each of them. And down the bottom with the two selected, I will utilize the send contact button. That takes us to our send contact page. It knows to pull through their email addresses for each of the different clients that we have invoices outstanding for. Then underneath, all we need to do is use the template option to select what we'd like to send along with the outstanding invoice. I'd like to utilize my overdue invoice attached email. Again, it just pre-fills the content that the guest or client will see, but each of them will receive their own invoice outlining what they have outstanding. So send email, and it will take us back to the report for the invoices and give us a successful message advising that they have been sent. That does bring us to the end of our invoicing scenarios. Next, we're going to take a look at receipting. Receipts are a great way to provide our guests or clients with a document that shows the date in which they paid and how they may have paid for something, or the date in which they were refunded or how they were refunded. Firstly, I'd like to show you how to locate a receipt within a client account. So we'll be taking a look at an in-house guest today from our today's summary, clicking into the guest in-house list, and I will be popping into Brad Hiller's client account from here. Once we're within his client account, we'll be able to see the client account ledger below, which displays all items that he's incurred within this stay. This could be anything from a payment to a refund to a charge to a credit to a receipt PDF or an invoice PDF. If we have a look below here, I'll point out that there is a payment for cash that was receipted on the 1st of January, the start of this year. And on the right, we'll be able to locate the actual receipt PDF that has been created for that payment. So this is what we would have sent the guest to show that they did successfully make that particular payment on that date. So if I were to load this receipt, it will display the PDF and show us exactly what items are reflected within the receipt. If you see a receipt such as this, and it does show within this section that there are charges within it, it's simply advising that those are the charges that the actual payment was applied against or reconciled against at the time this payment was receipted. So we can see the $525 credit, leaving them at a $0 balance at that point. I can simply use the print receipt option at the top, or if they would like us to resend it, I can use the contact and then automatically send the receipt to the guest from here. In addition to finding a existing receipt to print, you also have an area you can go to locate all receipts that you've ever created in the system. We simply head to our menu search on the left and type in receipts and click on the first option. It will then show us a full list of every receipt that we have generated within NewBook. For those of you who would like to print out all receipts that have been processed for payments and refunds each day, you'll be able to utilize the tick boxes beside each of the receipts to select the ones you would like to print. Then you need to head to the bottom of the page and use the with selected and select PDF. What will happen is it will reload 4 of those receipts that we've asked to print, and we simply click print receipts in the top bar. Alternatively, some of you may wish to actually email all receipts that have been processed day to day to the guests at the end of the day. This can be done also by bulk ticking the ones you'd like to send, and then with the selected items, send contact. It will pull through all 4 receipts for each particular person, their contact email address, and you will just simply need to select the template you'd like to send along with the receipts to those guests. We'll use our receipt attached and then send email. The receipts page is a great area to come to if you would like to bulk print receipts at the end of the day to have a manual paper copy on file. Alternatively, it's also great for bulk sending out receipts once you've done your end of day balancing and you'd like to send them off to the guests. I would like to mention that these can be automated. Anytime you make a payment within the NewBook system or even a refund, if you have the signature package, we have a great feature called automated contact that can be utilized to have receipts sent once payments have been receipted in the system. If you're interested in that, please let the support team know and we'll be able to provide you with further information. I hope you've enjoyed learning about receipts. The next area we'll be taking a look at is client account settings. As we now have a much better understanding of payments, refunds, invoices, and receipts, we're going to take a look at some of the available settings that we have within our client accounts. These settings can come in extremely helpful, especially when it comes to managing an account or viewing particular items on here. Today I'll be utilizing the today's summary to locate an in-house guest called Brad Hiller. I'll be clicking straight into his booking client account from here to get a detailed list of the items he has outstanding. The top area in red is indicating he has an outstanding balance. Then underneath in the sub-client accounts, this is outlining the various areas within his client account that may have outstanding items within them, such as his accommodation with the red debit amount and his electricity with the red debit amount. This area is great because if I would like to simply show just the items relating to the accommodation, I am able to tick into this area here, and once it turns purple, it simply reloads the client account ledger below to only display items relating to that sub-client account. So it's a very quick and easy way to filter out and hide items that you are no longer wanting to look at. If you would like to then show everything else on the client account, utilize the back to all client account overall button to bring everything back. So you'll notice now it's refreshed the page and I can see electricity items displaying here nicely for us. If you have bookings within the system that are staying generally for longer than 30 days or a long-term booking, they will most likely be set up with a repeat charge, and that will display within the client account as a handy tool to see exactly where they may have paid up until, and also the next date that they are due to have a charge rolled onto their account. We'll be taking a full look at repeat charges in a separate video tutorial, as they are such a great way to manage long-term bookings. Moving down to our client account ledger, this is where we get a detailed list of all items that have been generated within this client account for this particular booking. This is going to display anything such as an invoice, an individual charge that's been placed on the account that may not have been put in an invoice. It will also outline any payments that have been receipted already on their client account. And over on the right, we actually see the receipt associated with that payment that we can click into print again, same with the invoices. And if this particular account happened to have any refunds, we'd also see a refund on here and the receipt associated with it. When we're in a client account, it really is so important that we understand what exactly we are looking at. If you ever happen to see payments or charges that appear in this lovely green color, it's indicating that the charges have been fully paid off, so any fees that they owed have now been paid. And if a payment actually shows in this green color here, it's saying that that payment was used to pay off one of those fees. Any item appearing in the green is essentially indicating to you that it is fully reconciled or fully paid off, and those items have been dealt with. There's nothing left outstanding within them, and we only need to focus on any items that might be appearing in the grey or white colors, indicating that the status column is unpaid. I can't stress enough how important this column is. It's so handy for you to understand exactly what the status of a particular item is. At the bottom of the client account ledger here, we have the option to do certain things with the particular items that are within a client account, such as creating an invoice, making a payment, redoing a receipt or combining receipts, maybe emailing this information off to them, placing a refund, or even voiding an item from a client account. I would like to mention that when it comes to voiding items within a client account, it should only be used for very specific reasons. It should not be used to remove quoted rates off of a client account. Those things should be updated by editing a booking, and the client account will update correctly in doing so. There are some exceptions when it comes to bookings that use repeat charges. They work a little bit differently because they roll on automatically. Then once they've gone onto their account, that charge has been and gone. And if it was incorrect and you needed to update it, you would need to void the old incorrect charge, but you would then need to actually still edit the booking and update the billing details so that moving forward it continues to charge the correct amounts. The only real time I would ever recommend voiding is when you legitimately have made a mistake, such as adding a payment onto a booking account that you actually did not take and you saved it accidentally. So it's truly not something that you've actually processed. Another way that you would void an item from a client account is if it's something that you have actually manually added onto the client account during that person's stay. It's not something that's actually saved within their booking and it's not contributing to the stay costs that they were quoted for, such as a can of Coke or a newspaper that they might purchase purchase once they're arrived. If you were to add a charge onto an account, select an inventory item such as this can of Coke and save, you'll see it goes into debit for $2 under kiosk sales. And in the ledger here, I can see the actual charge that has been generated and it is unpaid. If that particular person no longer wanted that can of Coke, I could then tick it and use the void option below to remove it from the client account, and always place a reason in here or a note so that if you needed to backtrack and look at the voided items on an account, you can see exactly why they were removed. I will simply place in here that they are no longer purchasing and confirm that void. It voids that charge from the account. You'll notice it's no longer listed at the top here, and that's all I would need to do. It's very simple. Moving on from our selected item options, directly underneath we have our client account settings. You'll notice that the blue box here is defaulting to all, and that is advising that the system is automatically going to show all items that are within the client account. For those of you who have businesses where you may have a lot of bookings that are in-house for a very long time or a few years, and the client accounts may get quite large, if you'd like to, you're able to simply select one of the date options here and use your calendar to select the period and time you'd wish to look. So I'm going to look at the month of April and reload the page, and it will simply show me items that have been dated or generated within the month of April, and it's not showing me all items before or after that period. If we would now like to show all items back onto the account again, you can simply use the reset page button and it reverts back to your system default settings. There are ways in which you can set some of these as actual defaults on your screen. We will have a look at that in a separate video tutorial. On the right, we have our output, so how we would actually like to view the client account. It defaults to on screen, which is within the NewBook system, but you are able to print or export to CSV and Excel. Underneath, we have our display options, which are listed as easy or advanced. Wherever you do see these in the system, I would highly recommend clicking on the advanced options to see what extra filters you may have access to, as it really helps you refine different reports, or in this case, settings that we can look at within the client account. So once I click advanced, you'll notice I get a number of additional settings that I'm able to look at here. The first option we have is show voided items. It's currently on no, which means it will be hiding anything that may have been voided by a staff member. If we'd like to see whether something has been removed, we are able to place this on yes and reload. So it is a great troubleshooting tool. You'll notice that the client account ledger has now reloaded, and we have a list of red items throughout the account that have actually been voided. And the status column is also indicating that voided, the day that it was removed, and the time. In order for us to see more information about this as well, we're able to click onto the item that was voided, and it will give us the note if a staff member did register one against it at the time of voiding. We can place ourselves back to the client account, which again, it's still displaying those. If I'd like to hide them again, I can simply reset the page and it reverts back to our system settings. Heading back down to our advanced options, the next one is show paid items. On yes at the minute, which means it's actually showing everything on the client account that has been paid and also any unpaid or outstanding charges. If I'd like to hide everything that's already been settled and paid off, I'll place it on no and reload the page. Again, it reloads the client account ledger and filters out just to show our items that we have in the system that are still listed as unpaid. You'll notice that this particular charge here is indicating that it has been partially paid, so it's had $20 applied against it, but the charge itself is $49.13, so there's still some outstanding balance within that charge, hence why it is displaying. Again, if we'd like to revert everything back to our original settings, we're able to reset the page and it goes back to our system defaults. The next option is the show expanded invoices, and it is currently on no. So whenever you generate an invoice within the system, it creates a invoice template and it groups together all charges into the one line, so it makes the account nice nice and tidy. However, if you would actually like to still view the list of charges or items that are within an invoice, you are able to select Show Expanded Invoices, and all of the invoices that are on this account will then expand to show any charges that are currently within them, resetting the page, reverting it back to our system defaults. Over on the left, another really great tool is the Reverse Display Order option. This allows us to change the order in which the items will be listed within a client account. At the minute, it's showing our most recent items at the top and our oldest items at the bottom. Some people would prefer it to be the other way around, so they place it on Reverse Display Order No, reload the page, where you'll see all the oldest charges at the top and the newest items at the bottom. That's again a personal preference as to what you would like to do. Now that we've had a look at our client account settings, I would like to point out some of the available options that we have in the top and bottom of the page. The first one is Show Notes, which simply expands any booking notes or even client account notes that you may have added at any point. We have the option to go back to view the booking. We can reload the page so it refreshes what we're currently viewing on the screen. If you've made changes to any of the settings below here and you would like NewBook to revert it back to the defaults, simply press Reset Page. The account options gives us a number of items. First one is Scroll to Bottom, which allows us to jump quickly to the top and bottom of the screen. The next two are in relation to printing a statement or emailing a statement. A statement is what we can give to a guest which outlines all items on their account. They're getting a detailed list of everything that they have incurred throughout their stay. We could select Print, which simply loads it in a PDF format, and then we can print off. If we'd like to, we could email it off instead and it will attach as a PDF copy. Again, Reset allows us to revert back to our default settings. Underneath that, we do have our edit option. When we select that, it does allow us to enable and disable various settings within the client account. Not all of these need to be accessed by everyone or enabled for every particular user. If you are curious about these, please do not hesitate to call our support team. We can provide you further information as to why you would need to enable or disable any of these settings. Heading back to view our client account, the next option we have underneath our edit is Reconcile. The Reconcile button is used to run a full client account reconciliation. This is only to be used in the instance that there are payments within the client account that for some reason are unapplied or unreconciled. As an example, there is a payment that I have on the client account here for cash that was receipted today, and it's in the grey, which indicates it's not applied against any charge. It's not paying anything off. It's just been receipted on the account, but it hasn't been allocated to pay off anything in particular. If we wanted to, we would be able to use the account options and reconcile button to force that payment to apply against some outstanding charges on the client account. When you select this option, it allows you to refine whether or not you want the payment to apply against any charge that is outstanding within all of those sub-client accounts. Again, this is a full client account reconciliation, so it's going to reconcile that payment against the oldest outstanding charge, and it actually reconciles in order of sub-client accounts. So it'll go through each one first and look at the oldest outstanding unpaid charge, and we'll reconcile it against that first, and then it will do the next, and so on and so forth. So again, this particular setting should not need to be used every day. Generally, when you're making a payment, NewBook knows to apply it against a charge. It's only when people are making manual adjustments to accounts where they might void items, where a payment then becomes unallocated or it goes into credit because that charge is no longer on there, where things become unreconciled, or if people are receiving payments incorrectly. So if you have any concerns with this particular process, I'd highly recommend that you call our support team before you complete this, just to ensure that you're actually completing the correct process in the client account, as there may be a better option for you. You may not need to do this particular one. So I'll run the reconciliation and just show you that the payment here is now in the green and it has been fully reconciled. If we would like to see what actual charge it paid off, you can click on the payment, and the Applied Item tab will display exactly what charge it's paying off. If we go back to view the client account, that is how your account options reconcile button works. Any booking that has a repeat charge within it, you'll be able to manually generate the next one onto the client account if you needed to for a particular reason. However, they generally automatically raise onto the client account for you. And lastly, there is an audit log to check what changes have been made to edit the client account. The last icon we have is our Add New button, which allows us to manually generate a charge onto the client account or a credit, and a shortcut to generate a payment or create an invoice. That does bring us to the end of our video tutorial today on client accounts. I hope you've learned some really handy tips and tricks. If you do happen to have any further questions, please do not hesitate to reach out to our support team. Otherwise, we look forward to seeing you in our next video tutorials.